The internet is shaking. Twitter is on life support. And Stefon Diggs is apparently one eyebrow twitch away from throwing his phone into the nearest ocean because Cardi B just did the one thing he swore she would never do. She opened the vault, locked, loaded, and allegedly filled with receipts that could end a man's entire public existence before lunchtime. And here's the real gag. Not only did she hint at his secret life, the whispers, the DL rumors, the yacht trips with models who definitely weren't the type his PR team wanted, but sis allegedly confirmed the one thing Stefon has spent years dodging. His hidden trans girlfriend. Yes, you heard me. Hidden trans girlfriend. And now, Stefon Diggs is snapping hard, throwing shade online, calling people weird, unfollowing, refollowing, deleting. Undeleting, acting like a man who just realized Cardi B is allegedly writing a tell-all book that might spiritually, financially, socially, and romantically finish him. Because once Cardi starts talking, there is no NDA strong enough, no PR team fast enough, and no baby mama loyal enough to stop the internet from exploding. So grab your snacks, hide your wigs, and pray for Stefon's blood pressure, because this story, it's about to get dangerous the moment the smoke settled from the online explosion. People finally realized something was very, very off in the way Stefon was moving. And the whispers about his private life suddenly didn't feel like whispers anymore. They felt like sirens. Because the truth is, nobody expected Cardi to ever reach the point where she would start peeling back layers on a man she once publicly protected. Nobody thought she'd be the one holding the smoking gun. But here we are, and the internet is hanging on to every frame, every screenshot, every deleted tweet, trying to decode what really happened between one of the NFL's most polished public figures and a rap superstar who has never needed a microphone to destroy someone's reputation. And the craziest, this video. It all started long before the yacht photos, long before the baby mama chaos, long before the shady posts. This story was already rotting from the inside, long before anybody outside their circles smelled the decay. Because when Stefon first slid into Cardi's world, people said it was a weird combination. A football player infamous for being unpredictable with women, and a rapper infamous for torching men who play with her. But behind the scenes, the two clicked faster than people expected. At least, that's what Cardi thought. Meanwhile, Stefon was out here juggling situationships like he was trying to set a world record in emotional gymnastics. And Cardi didn't see it at first because she never does. She always goes in with loyalty first, logic second. But once the pattern becomes familiar, she flips the switch. And Stefon clearly didn't study the history books, because the moment he pulled the same stunts Offset once did, he unknowingly activated the exact side of Cardi he should have stayed miles away from. But if you think this was just about another breakup or another shady Instagram post, think again. Because the core of the drama wasn't the breakup or the Super Bowl humiliation or the cryptic captions. The core was that Cardi was allegedly holding on to information that Stefon hoped would never see daylight. Ever. Information tied to his image, his masculinity, his brand deals, his sponsorships, his entire curated identity as the league's smooth, straight ladiesman receiver. And Cardi claims he used her to strengthen that identity. That's where the real betrayal sat. Not in the cheating, not in the disrespect, not in the Super Bowl nonsense, but in feeling like a prop. Because once things started cracking, Cardi allegedly began connecting dots she ignored in real time. Listening to conversations she brushed off. Replaying moments she laughed through. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces were looking a lot less like coincidence and a lot more like a double life, hidden behind endorsements and touchdowns. And what made it worse? The people around Stefon weren't even trying to hide the fact that they knew things. Cardi didn't. They treated her like a visitor. Temporary, convenient, replaceable. And that energy only made Cardi dig deeper, asking herself why a man with so many women around him always seemed more defensive when the male rumors came up than when the cheating rumors did. But none of this. We've reached nuclear level if Stefon hadn't decided to respond to Cardi's silence with petty chaos. Because Cardi was quiet at first. You could tell she wanted to keep it classy. She told her fans to chill. She didn't subtweet him. She didn't shade him. She genuinely tried to let the breakup fade without scandal. But Stefon couldn't help himself. The Rolling Stone caption, the smirking photos, the playlist shade, the timing, the audacity, all landing right after Cardi defended him publicly. And that was the final straw, because the caption was deep. But because he embarrassed her while she was still protecting him. That's a sin in Cardi's rulebook. People forget how much loyalty means to her until she burns someone down for violating it, because the moment she saw that post, it wasn't heartbreak she felt. It was clarity. The kind of clarity that shakes a woman awake. The kind of clarity that says, oh, so you want war? Cool. And once Cardi decides it's war, she doesn't throw small shade. She throws nukes, which brings us to the yacht photos. The photos Stefon thought made him look single, fun, desirable, the center of attention. Except Cardi wasn't impressed, and not for the reasons people assumed. She wasn't jealous of the women. She wasn't mad about the location. She wasn't even bothered by the timing. What set her off were the details she recognized. The pattern of the women. The similarities. The structure. And that's when she allegedly dropped the bomb. The women weren't just women. They were trans women. The same type of women he had been photographed with several times before. The same type he always denied having any connection to. And the same type he feared the public would find out about. Suddenly, the room fell silent. The comments slowed. Even his biggest defenders paused. Because Cardi didn't just throw shade, she threw a storyline. A storyline that Stefon desperately didn't want trending. Not because there's anything wrong with dating anyone trans, but because he allegedly built his entire identity on being the opposite of what those rumors suggested. And in the NFL, where the culture still isn't friendly toward any man who isn't hypermasculine, the fear wasn't personal. It was professional image, endorsements, contracts, reputation. And Cardi knew that. She knew exactly where to hit him to cause maximum damage without even lifting a finger. But the saga didn't end there. Because the internet, being the internet, started digging. People found old tweets, old interviews, old paparazzi photos, old allegations, and suddenly two names resurfaced, Bibby Banks and Chris Griffith. Two men with two separate accusations years apart, both pointing in the same direction. Cardi didn't even have to say their names. The internet did it for her, and Stefon's silence only made it look worse. No clarifications, no statements, no lawsuits, just cryptic posts and vibes. That's when everything took a darker turn. Because Bibby's alleged messages to Chris weren't about drama, they were about survival, fear, being silenced, being attacked. And the elevator footage of Chris being jumped suddenly made a lot more sense to people. They connected it to Stefon's alleged involvement, even if no direct proof ever existed. But once a rumor gets oxygen, starts breathing on its own. Which brings us back to Cardi, because people assumed she didn't know any of this before she dated him. But she did. She just didn't care. She's always dated controversial men. That was nothing new for her. What bothered her wasn't the past, it was feeling used in the present. Because according to her, Stefon allegedly convinced her he was bisexual, not gay. And she accepted that. But then she looked back at the timeline and realized nothing he told her ever fully added up. The excuses, the stories, the inconsistencies, the late nights, the homies who always lingered a little too close. And suddenly she saw the truth she didn't want to see before. That's why. When Stefon humiliated her publicly, it unlocked the part of Cardi she doesn't like activating. The part that doesn't care about consequences. The part that burned through Offset. The part that shattered Nicki's PR era. The part that broke the internet more than once. And when that part comes out, the whole world feels it. Which is why the whispers about her Talal book shook the timeline. Because if Cardi ever wrote a book about her relationships, it wouldn't be a chapter. It'd be a detonation. And the idea that Stefon might be a featured storyline? That alone was enough to send him spiraling. Because the book wouldn't just expose Hammett, would permanently alter how the world sees him. And Cardi knows that. She knows the power she has. She knows the internet listens to her before it listens to reporters. She knows her influence is cultural currency. And she knows that once her fans lock onto a narrative, they do not let it go. So now Stefon is scrambling, posting, deleting, texting, calling, trying to save face, trying to rewrite the narrative, trying to convince people that the rumors aren't what they look like. But it's too late. Because the story has momentum now. And stories with momentum don't stop. They snowball. And this one is heading downhill fast. And what's wild is that this is only the beginning of the mess. Because the accusations bubbling under the surface aren't just personal, they're public. They involve other men, other women, potential cover-ups, potential NDAs, alleged hush payments, alleged threats, alleged hush payments, alleged threats, alleged manipulation. And all of those threads lead back to one thing. A man who thought he could balance two separate lives until one of them snapped the other in half. And the person holding the scissors was Cardi. Now, the only question is how far she's willing to go. The moment Cardi dropped that subtle but not subtle bomb about the Yacht girls allegedly being trans, the internet didn't just react, it combusted. Overnight, hashtags exploded, Reddit detectives clocked in like they were on payroll. And suddenly Stefon's entire image looked like it had been held together by duct tape and vibes. And where did part one leave off? Right at the moment where every thread started tightening at once. Right when Stefon's panic started leaking through the seams. So let's pick up exactly from there. With the tension high, the tea boiling. And Stefon trying desperately to keep the walls from caving in. Because the second Cardi hinted that she might write a tell-all book, Stefon didn't sleep. And I'm not guessing his whole digital footprint started malfunctioning. One minute he was liking tweets about privacy. The next minute he was reposting gym videos like nothing was wrong. Then suddenly he was unfollowing, refollowing, blocking, unblocking. That is not the behavior of a calm man. That is the behavior of someone who just realized the one person holding his secrets is also the one person who has zero fear of pressing publish. And here's the real kicker. Cardi's fans didn't even need her to reveal anything else. They were already ahead of her. They were pulling up flight logs, matching nail colors in old photos, comparing hotel curtains in selfies, and even cross-referencing background shadows from the yacht pictures. They were determined to connect every dot because Cardi didn't have to say it. Her silence between the lines was talking louder than a press conference. And when Cardi's silence starts speaking, somebody's life is about to turn into a bonfire. But Stefon wasn't just worried about the gossip. He was worried about the pattern. Because everything Cardi hinted at matched the two names he never wanted trending again. Bibi Banks and Chris Griffith. And once those two resurfaced, the timeline became a minefield for him. There were threads titled Stefon Diggs' timeline of alleged DL behavior. Why didn't he sue them? And Cardi saw the signs. Even sports analysts started doing the thing they always do when drama leaks into the league. They fake professionalism, while clearly loving every second of the mess. Meanwhile, Stefon's camp was scrambling, slowly, too slowly. Because instead of addressing the situation, they were trying to bury it under content. Suddenly, Stefon is posting family pictures. Suddenly, he's posting "God got me" quotes. Suddenly, he's in Bible study mode, even though nobody asked. That is PR rule number 1. When a scandal is simmering, pretend you're too blessed to be stressed. But baby, he was stressed. He was stressed like a man who just remembered every screenshot he forgot to delete. But what really threw gasoline on the fire was when Cardi's fans noticed something bizarre. A specific Miami hotel started trending because apparently Stefon had booked the same penthouse suite multiple times, but not with the same people. And Cardi hinted that she had timelines. Timelines, the one word no man ever wants to hear from a woman he lied to. Because when a woman says she has timelines, she's not bluffing. She's already made the PowerPoint, and that's when the anonymous sources started crawling out. Suddenly, a friend of a friend claimed Stefon had a whole separate life nobody knew about. Another claimed they had seen him at private-themed parties in LA. It's the kind that celebrities swear don't happen, but definitely do. Another claimed that some of the women Stefon publicly praised weren't actually women, at all allegedly confirming exactly what Cardi insinuated. Whether true or false didn't even matter at this point, the story had momentum. And momentum destroys reputations faster than facts ever could. Then things took an even darker turn. Because Bibi Banks resurfaced online. Not to spill tea, but to post cryptic messages. And the cryptic ones are always the ones that hit hardest. One of the posts said, "Funny how some people act holy when their truth is held together by fear." People immediately pointed fingers at Stefon because the timing was too perfect, the shade too precise, and the coincidence too non-existent. But while the tweets and posts were circling, something else started happening behind the scenes. Stefon's team allegedly began reaching out to blogs asking them not to cover the story. And the moment fans realized that, it was over. Because nothing makes a rumor explode faster than someone trying to hide it. That's the internet law. You hide it. It goes viral. You deny it. People believe it more. You stay silent. People write the story for you. And Stefon chose silence. Meanwhile, Cardi was doing what she does best, pretending she wasn't paying attention while definitely paying attention. She tweeted something like, "I hate when people pretend they real, but they lie for sport." And the whole timeline started shaking like a washing machine on its last cycle. Because Cardi knows how to spray subtext like bullets. And Stefon knew every bullet was aimed at him. But things got even messier when people remembered something else. Stefon has a long pattern of surrounding himself with extremely beautiful women who never speak publicly. Ever. No interviews, no statements, no long Instagram captions, nothing. They exist, disappear, then new ones appear. That type of silence from that many women. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. And that's exactly the type of detail that makes the internet suspicious. Which is why, when Cardi hinted that Stefon didn't just have one hidden trans girlfriend, but an entire pattern of hidden lovers, the timeline stopped breathing. Because the idea wasn't shocking because of sexuality, it was shocking because of the deception. Because if Cardi was telling the truth, Stefon's Playboy image wasn't real, it was PR, a costume, a smokescreen dot, and then came the real twist. Someone claimed that Stefon wasn't worried about Cardi exposing the trans girlfriend. He was worried about Cardi exposing the men, the male celebrities, the stylists, the producers, the athletes, the people whose names could cause real damage if attached to him. And that's why, allegedly, his reaction behind the scenes wasn't sadness, it was panic. Real panic. Because if Cardi writes that book, names will be in it, dates, locations, screenshots, and the thing about Cardi. She doesn't say she has receipts unless she has a folder thicker than a Tron. It's college textbook. Which is why Stefon's inner circle allegedly started pressuring him to make peace with her. Not apologize. Not rekindle the relationship. But make peace. Translation, make sure she doesn't press print. But Cardi wasn't interested. Because she wasn't trying to get back with him. She wasn't trying to negotiate. She wasn't even trying to argue. She was letting the internet do the job, and the internet was doing it spectacularly by this point. Fan pages had already made entire breakdown threads of every alleged trans woman Stefon had ever been linked to. People were cross-referencing who liked Stefon's pictures, who he followed, who he unfollowed, who he commented on. Even sports pages were starting to treat the situation like a scandal instead of gossip. And then something wild happened. Someone leaked messages claiming Stefon had been warned months ago that Cardi was catching on. That she was asking questions, that she was suspicious, and instead of telling the truth, he doubled down. He lied harder. He hid more. And that's what triggered the spiral Cardi is in now. The feeling of being played for a fool, Cardi doesn't forgive fools. She exposes them and Stefon. He gave her material. Mountains of material. The kind of material that ruins a sponsorship, destroys a brand, and shifts the entire public perception of a celebrity overnight. And the scariest, this video? Cardi still hasn't said everything. Not even close. Picking up exactly where this video ended. Right at the moment the internet realized Cardi hadn't even started exposing the real tea. Because the scary part wasn't what she hinted. It was what she didn't say. And the silence. That's what had Stefon pacing like a man waiting for a judge's verdict. Every second Cardi stayed quiet felt like another secret crawling its way out of the shadows. And that's where this video begins, with the whole industry bracing for impact and Stefon realizing he is one tweet, one screenshot, one chapter away from watching his career collapse in real time. Because let me tell you something, when Cardi B goes silent, the internet gets louder. People were analyzing every micro movement of her social media like it was crime scene footage. Did she like a tweet? Did she unlike a tweet? Did she use a period in a sentence she normally wouldn't? Fans were decoding her punctuation like it was the Da Vinci Code. And every time Cardi blinked, a new rumor surfaced. A new thread went viral. A new alleged friend of the family popped up claiming they knew something. But the real chaos started when someone close to Stefon's circle leaked something that sent shockwaves through the sports world. Allegedly, Stefon had been warned internally by people in the NFL that his private life was becoming a liability. Not because of who he was dating, but because the cover-ups were becoming reckless. And if one thing the NFL hates, it's messy headlines they can't control. Especially headlines that involve deception, leaked messages, and hidden relationships with people who could blow up his entire narrative. Suddenly, people started whispering about internal investigations, quiet inquiries, and reputation concerns. Nothing official, nothing on paper, but enough noise behind the scenes that Stefon's team allegedly held emergency meetings. Not about football, not about endorsements, but about Cardi. Cardi and her book, Cardi and her power. Cardi and the fact that she could detonate everything he built with one press release. Meanwhile, Cardi was moving like a woman on a mission. A woman who had carried someone's secrets for too long. A woman who is done being embarrassed. Done being lied to. Done looking like the fool. And people close to her were saying she wasn't just angry, she was hurt. And when Cardi gets hurt, she turns into a storm. And here's the thing. Cardi doesn't threaten for fun. She threatens when the receipts are already printed, alphabetized, hole-punched, and placed neatly in a binder. So when she hinted at a tell-all, everybody knew it wasn't a bluff. A Cardi B tell-all. That's not a book. That's an earthquake. That's a career demolition manual. And that's exactly why Stefon's behavior started getting even weirder. Suddenly, he's posting cryptic messages about being misunderstood. People twisting narratives and loyalty not being appreciated. You know, the classic signs of a man who knows the truth isn't on his side. You could practically see the fear in his captions. The thing is, Stefon didn't expect Cardi to move like this. He thought she would play the PR game. He thought she would protect the relationship even after it ended. He thought she would protect him the same way she did with Offset. But what he didn't understand was simple. Cardi protects you as long as you don't humiliate her. The moment you embarrass her publicly, the gloves come off. The masks come off. The silence ends. And trust me, the embarrassment was real. Because fans dug up everything, including the fact that Stefon's baby mamas were at the Super Bowl with his family, while Cardi wasn't even invited to sit with them. Imagine that. She threw him a $1.2 million party and didn't even get a seat with his people. That's not an oversight. That's a message. A disrespectful neon sign, billboard-sized message. And when Cardi realized that, she snapped quietly, strategically, and then publicly. But what had people gagged was when someone leaked messages from an alleged burner account connected to Stefon. Messages that allegedly showed him talking to 2 different trans women. Privately, while publicly posting about real. women and traditional relationships. The hypocrisy was so thick you could slice it with a butter knife. Fans started dragging him left, right, center, diagonally, every direction available. And then Chris Griffith's name resurfaced again. People remembered the essay allegations. They remembered the TMZ elevator footage. They remembered Stefon's brother allegedly jumping Chris. And they remembered Bibby Banks hinting that he and Chris shared similar experiences with Stefon. Suddenly, everything Cardi was hinting at didn't sound far-fetched anymore. And then the scariest thing happened. Somebody allegedly leaked a draft chapter from Cardi's supposed book. A draft chapter titled "The Lies They Tell to Look Straight." Nobody knows if it's real or fake, but it didn't matter. The internet believed it instantly. People started quoting it. Memes exploded. Analysts reacted. Even celebrities chimed in, and Stefon. Radio silence. Complete meltdown mode. Because the draft chapter talked about a football player who begged a rapper to protect his reputation. A football player who cried when his DL rumor surfaced. A football player who allegedly said, "If this gets out, I'm done." And even though no names were listed, everybody already knew who it was meant to be. And that's when things went nuclear. Because Cardi went live for 20 seconds. Just 20 seconds. But it broke the internet. All she said was, "People think I'm scared to talk, but I ain't protecting nobody no more." Then she ended the live. No explanation. No follow-up, nothing. Just a warning shot. Those 20 seconds did more damage than a 2-hour interview. At this point, sports commentators were whispering that Stefon might face contract issues if the book hit shelves. Rumor blogs claimed brands were monitoring the situation. Fans claimed his endorsement deals were in danger. And the thing about monitoring the situation? That's brand code for "we will drop you the second this gets worse." And baby, it was getting worse by the minute. Because right when people thought they had seen it all, someone leaked photos allegedly showing Stefon at a private party that did not look like anything his PR team would approve of. Dim lights, champagne, a few familiar faces, and multiple women whose identities sparked another wave of speculation. The comments were savage. People said he wasn't hiding a double life. He was hiding an entire secret universe. And that's when Stefon finally cracked. He posted something like, "Stop believing lies." Y'all weird? The shortest, weakest, most predictable line a scandalized celebrity always writes right before everything collapses. And the comments, "Ruthless, Cardi got you sweating, huh? Blink twice if the book is real." "Show us the yacht attendees then," she said, trans girlfriend. "Why you quiet? Where are the timelines at, Stefon?" Every reply was a digital punch. Meanwhile, insiders claim Cardi had even more career-ending material. Stuff she hasn't said. Stuff she might save for the book. Stuff that allegedly involves names. Stefon never wanted associated with him. And that's the terrifying part. Because if Cardi releases that book, even a teaser, even a snippet, Stefon's career, reputation, and carefully crafted image might unravel faster than he can delete posts. And every hour she stays silent, the internet gets louder. The question now isn't, is more tea coming? The question is, how much worse is the truth Cardi hasn't said yet? Because if this is just the preview, the full story might be catastrophic. And honestly, at this point, the only thing louder than Stefon's panic is the silence coming from the people who swore they didn't know anything. Because now everyone's pretending they're innocent. Pretending they didn't see the messages. Pretending they weren't in those rooms when the receipts were being collected like infinity stones. But the truth always leaks. The truth always spreads. And Cardi's pen. That pen is still moving. That tell-all book is still allegedly being edited, polished, sharpened like a weapon she plans to launch at the perfect time. And Stefon knows it. That's why he's spiraling. That's why the NFL group chats are on fire. That's why every influencer with a ring light is making prediction videos. Like it's the Super Bowl of scandals. But now I'm handing it over to you. Because this story is now officially out of their hands and in yours. Do you believe Cardi is really about to expose everything? Do you think Stefon is hiding even more than what slipped out? And most importantly, should his secret girlfriend come forward herself before the book drops and steals her whole narrative? Tell me what you think, because this saga is far from over. Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you survive the chaos, and subscribe if you're ready for the next explosion.